Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Rich Woman Rising podcast. I'm your host, Eloise Tompkins, and I'm a money confidence coach and psychologist. And I love to help women heal their relationship with money using body-based techniques so that you can heal from within rather than staying very intellectual about your relationship with money. And today, I want to have a chat with you about something that I don't know about you, but I definitely experienced when I started my business. When I first started my business, I remember telling my friends, and my friends are all 9 to 5ers, they're employees, and they haven't really ever had, to my knowledge, an interest in starting a business, which is fine. Not everybody has to start a business, and I totally get that. And I remember talking to one of my friends and explaining that one of the reasons I wanted to create a business was because I wanted to make more money. And the reason that I wanted to make more money was because I had spent so long training to become a psychologist, like 6 years at university, studying loads. And when I graduated, the salaries varied from $60,000 to around $100K. That's a huge difference. $40,000 differences in the salaries. And I was like, that's wild. There are people out there who haven't gotten degrees, who are earning more than me, and I want to make more money. And I was explaining this to my friend, and I remember her just being like, oh my gosh, why? Why do you want to be so greedy? I was like, taken aback by that. And that was kind of one of these first experiences of me really being confronted with other people's perceptions of money and highlighting their money blocks, and also highlighting my desire to want to create a profitable business and to want to change my life. And I hear this a lot with business owners, where when we start a business, when we talk about money, when we start to become successful and make money, it can create friction in our friendships, particularly if some of our friendships aren't with people who are entrepreneurs who don't have the same knowledge or understanding of what it takes to run a business. And I've certainly experienced that within my friendship circle, where I would talk about things like lead generation, and my friends would say things like, oh, well, have you put flyers in people's letterboxes? Or, yeah, you really need to be able to talk about money and that'll get clients for you. And I was like, oh, I really appreciate your trying, but you have no idea. And it can be really difficult when our success means that we financially outgrow our friends, or things change, the dynamics shift. It can be really hard. And sometimes it can feel like those friends you kind of move away from, you outgrow them. And there's actually a couple of signs that I see when you do start to outgrow those friends. For example, there's the underlying comments, like they almost those it's like negging. I don't know if you've heard that term, like dating, negging, a compliment that's not a compliment. It's got these subtle undertones that are kind of passive aggressive in a way. And I've definitely heard those, like, oh, you're too ambitious. Why would you want that? And actually, they're probably not negging. They're just like rude, because they're their money stories, not my own. Or there might be the guilt trips about how much you work, because again, don't know about you, but for most women that I speak with, starting a business is not easy. There's a reason that within the first 2 years of starting a business, most of them fail, or a majority of them fail. That's because it's not easy for a lot of reasons. You're learning about business. You might have the skills, like me, I've got the psychology skills, but I've had to learn a bucket load of business skills, marketing skills. And sometimes that means you are working a lot, or you're trying to learn new skills, you're hiring coaches. Like, I have invested a lot of money into coaches, and my friends will say things to me like, oh my goodness, how much are you spending on that coach? Like, that's crazy. Are you really spending that much on a coach? And I'm like, it's actually not that much, but yeah, I am, because it's really helping me. Or they might say things like, money isn't everything, you know. Like, why does it have to be all about the money? Don't you like being a psychologist? That should be enough. Or it might even be where they minimize your wins and you don't feel like you can share the big stuff that comes up. You've just got a new client, the highest paying client yet. That's a massive win for you, but you feel like you have to downplay it. Or even sometimes, like, and I know I've had conversations like this with my friends, like with the marketing. I don't talk about it because I'm like, I'm not going to put letterboxes, like posters in people's letterboxes. That is not a marketing strategy that is going to work for my business. I mean, would you read that? You're my ideal client. Would you be reading a letter in your letterbox? You know, probably not. And if you are, let me know. Send me a message on Insta and be like, yeah, Ellie, I'd love a letter from you in my letterbox. It's not going to happen because that's not my preferred marketing method. It is for some people, like plumbers do it, people fixing your windows and stuff, but not my business. And it can be really difficult. And in some ways, like, that then leads into this idea also of like staying relatable, because the more you succeed, the more income you generate, your lifestyle starts to change. And that's not a bad thing, but you might be able to start affording different types of holidays, a different type of car, maybe even living in a different suburb, or different hobbies, or having more money to go to different restaurants, and they can't. And that can be difficult because in some ways you want to just be like, yeah, we'll go to that cheap restaurant down the road. Last time I got food poisoning there, but I know that you're struggling for cash. So sure, let's go there. And there can be this pressure to stay relatable. All of those are some signs that maybe your friendship group is limiting your growth. Because when you are surrounding yourself in that energy, it can be really difficult to move up to that next level. And to move up to that next level kind of requires an identity shift. And letting go of an old identity can be really, really hard. And it's not to say everyone, you're going to want to let go of everyone. Like, I have friends who definitely don't earn as much as me, and I will still go and do something cheap because I value the friendship. There's other things that I get out of it. And I'm not talking about all of your friendships, or maybe they are, I don't know. That'll be something for you to think about. And it's okay sometimes to go to that cheap restaurant. It's okay to do things that don't cost a lot. Like, it doesn't all have to be about the money. It's more of that general sense. How do you feel around them now that you are doing something different with your life and your business is doing really well? And the reason often behind that friction actually has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your success, but it has to do with them a lot of the time and their money blocks. And, we can even relate this to our partner in some ways. I'm not going to go there. Actually, I'm not going to go there at all, because I think that's a whole separate conversation. Like, our success can actually trigger other people's insecurities. It can trigger their money blocks. It can trigger their own stuff that they've got. With one of my friends, like, I remember having a conversation around how much we would charge as a psychologist. And my response was, well, I'm absolutely not going to charge anything less than $200. My friend was like, oh, and I could like see her physically pull back and have this really physical response to that amount of money. And she was like, no, there is absolutely no way I would be able to charge $200. Like, no. And when we kind of tease that apart, there was some family stuff that obviously, like, we think about money, always childhood family stuff and the relationship with money that our parents had that then filters onto us. But her family stuff, her money blocks influenced how she responded to me and my desire to charge a particular price in my work as a psychologist. And it had nothing to do with me. It had absolutely zero to do with me and a lot to do with her and how she felt towards money. But sometimes, like, when we're connected to that person and we want to have them like us, we want to belong, we want to I don't know, get along with that person because we don't want other people to not like us, right? And so when we have that kind of stuff, it can come across as conflict and we don't like it, doesn't feel good. So we try and avoid it, which is where we do these things like minimize our success to try and avoid that conflict. That's not a healthy friendship. That's not a healthy relationship because your friends should be lifting you up. Your friends should be celebrating you. And unfortunately, sometimes that financial success can change or challenge the group dynamics that you have. And that can be really uncomfortable to sit with. And a lot of women will go through changes in their friendship groups as their business grows. I know personally, I have changed my friendships a lot, not just because of my business, but because of my own personal growth and wanting more from my friendships, wanting more emotional depth, wanting more vulnerability and connection. So there's lots of reasons why we might change our friendship groups. Business and success can certainly be one of them. And a lot of people struggle, especially in Australia. Like, apparently, I don't know, I don't really know much about the research around this, but tall poppy syndrome, people don't like other people, particularly women. It's really funny. Funny not in a ha-ha way, but funny in a what the fuck kind of way. Women don't like to see other women succeed. It is wild. Although, I think about it from a socialization perspective, and it kind of makes sense. Like, women have been socialized to not want to see other women succeed. We are socialized to tear other women down. And because if we fight with other women and compare ourselves to other women and what are they doing and how can I be better and then it actually stops us from focusing on the rest of what's happening in the world and how actually things aren't really that equal for women. Because if we're so busy comparing ourselves to other women, we can not pay attention to that other stuff. Well, that's my opinion anyway. I don't know whether that's founded in research, but that's my thoughts. And so that tall poppy syndrome can be really difficult because you're out there basking in the sun, so to speak, enjoying your success. And then people just want to come and cut you down because you're taking up too much space, and they don't like that. However, do you know what? I think the thing is that instead of letting yourself be cut down, find people who support your growth, who are like, yeah, we want to water you. We want to support you. We want to nurture you so that you can grow even bigger and brighter. And it can become really empowering to find that group of friends. It can be really isolating, and it can be really empowering finding them. And I think during that phase where you're kind of in between the group of friends who's kind of like not quite supporting you in the way that you would like, or is kind of stunting your growth, holding you back in some way, to finding that empowered group who lift you up, help you, support you, really want to see you grow, it can be a really difficult transition space. And it can require a little bit of work to move to that next stage. But the thing I love to kind of think about is our friendship in kind of circles. That sounds a bit weird when I say it like that. Let me explain. The way I see it is that we have kind of like our inner circle of like the person like us and the person who, or persons, like maybe there might be one or two people that are your like go-to. Often this person is usually a partner, and someone super close, sometimes in your mostly in people's families, or a really close friend. Usually it's a partner. And then outside of that circle, there's some, again, close people, but they're not as close as the people in the inner circle. And there might be people like your best friends, a family member who you're really close with, generally not a colleague at work or something like that. Normally, those people in that outer circle are still quite close. They're people that you might call at 3 a.m. if you needed something. And there's probably not going to be a lot of people in those first two circles. Then outside of that, we're starting to build out kind of our acquaintance network or our friendship network of people who we might see every couple of weeks. We might go out for a coffee with them individually, but we probably wouldn't share too much about the in-depth personal stuff. And then outside of that, there's kind of those acquaintances that we might go out for dinner with every 6 months, maybe in a group setting, or you catch up with them every now and then, or you see them out at events with other people, but they don't form a part of your inner circles. And then moving out again is kind of where we've got like the broader people that we interact with. It might be checkout person at Coles or people that you pass in the street and whatnot. So I kind of conceptualize it like that. And the reason that I like to conceptualize friendships in that way is because it can help when you're thinking about your friendship circle. You might have those friends who you're like, yeah, they are stunting my growth. And maybe they were in your inner circle. So maybe it's time to move those people out if you still want them in your life. Or maybe it's time that they're no longer in that inner circle. Maybe they move out to the acquaintance phase. You get to decide. And like money blocks, they have their own circles too. And in their mind, they might still perceive you in their inner circle. And that's okay. And I know I've certainly had that before where I've had people who have thought and considered me their best friend, whereas in my circle, they were kind of in one of the further out circles. So even though we're conceptualizing it our own way and thinking, okay, well, where does that person sit? They may be thinking of it differently. And you know what? That's okay. And if you're feeling up for it, you might even want to have a conversation with them around, hey, I'm noticing that our conversation, like when I talk about my business and the success, I'm noticing that you make comments that I'm too ambitious. And actually that makes me feel really, really kind of resentful. And it really makes me not want to come out and have dinner with you. So, I actually want to limit the amount of time that I spend with you. I still value your friendship, but I just can't be around you as much. And you might not. Like that can be really tricky to do. Yeah. And that being said, I don't necessarily think it's great to ghost people, particularly if you've been friends with them for a long time. But that being said, you are also can pull back on friendships without necessarily having to have a sit-down conversation. And I've done that recently where I needed to end a friendship that we had been friends for 10 years. And it was really, really difficult because this was someone who was a really close friend. But I didn't like who I was around this person. I felt like I wasn't able to be myself. And I ended the friendship and it sucked. It really sucked. And a part of me would have just loved to have walked away and not said anything. But that's also not in line with my values. So I decided to have a conversation. Was it fun? No. Was she hurt? Yes. Was she angry? Also, yes. And I also needed to do it. And I'm glad that I did. Do I miss this person? Yeah, of course. And both things can be true. So you get to decide what those friendship boundaries are for you and whether they're working for you. And if they're not, you get the opportunity to decide what you want those boundaries to be, whether it's moving them out into a further out circle, whether it's having that conversation and seeing if there's any shifts that can occur, but you get the choice, however that looks for you, because you deserve to have people that are going to lift you up, to support you, to cheer you on, because we're already, again, I'm speaking for myself here, and I work with a lot of women, so I'm kind of confident when I say this. We're our own worst critic. We don't need someone else coming along and criticizing us, even if it's just subtle comments. We don't need that. We need someone like who's going to believe in us. Like, I have met people who do not know me, and I've told them about my business, and they're like, fuck, you rock. Like, that's awesome. Yeah, you're going to do amazing things with your business. And then I talk to my friends, and they're just like, huh? Why? Why would you want to do that? Why would you, what? Why would you not want to stay in a 9 to 5? Pick your people, because I just can't stress this enough. Like, you deserve to have people cheering you on. Like, you fucking deserve that. Of course you do. Oh my God, I could like go on a tangent about this. And so you might then think about your current social circle. So this conversation might be having you reflect on, well, what does my current social circle look like? And I think that's super important, because I don't know, again, I don't know about you, but I feel like for me, I don't really audit my social circle. And well, maybe I do actually. I think we do. You know, like you come home from dinner or connecting with a friend, and you might think, oh, that was really good. I feel really energized. Or you might come home and think, oh, that was really draining. But we don't really stop, pause, slow down, and take stock of that friendship and think, why was I feeling drained? Oh, I was feeling drained because they spoke about themselves all night and they weren't really interested in what I had to say. Or I tried to talk about this part of my business and they just laughed and didn't really care. It can be helpful to understand what it is about our friendship that we find difficult or frustrating. One, that gives us the ability, like if we do decide to have a conversation with them, we can have that evidence, you know, and not that we need a justification, but it can be really helpful just to, for our own selves, to know what it is that we are questioning and why we're wanting to move that person out. Because sometimes when we get space, we can step back from something. We can think, oh, wasn't really that bad. And in fact, someone was talking to me about this the other day and they were like, oh, it's not that bad. And then we kind of peek into it as like, okay, actually, yeah, it is pretty bad. So when you have that information, then you can kind of be like, oh, well, these are the reasons why. And sometimes we need to come back to it and revisit it. And when we think about our friendships and shifting people in or out of our circles, it can then take confidence to build up new friendships. That's not always easy, especially as an adult. And that's where things like going to networking events can be really helpful and powerful. Building relationships in your business, probably not with clients until they're no longer clients. I mean, that's up to you and use your discretion. However, sometimes that doesn't work out so well. And use that as an opportunity to reflect on what kind of friend you are and what kind of friend you want to be as well. Because I don't think that we think about that. We think we're a particular type of friend, but sometimes we're not. And I know that's definitely me as well. Like, I know that it took me a long time to realize that I wasn't the kind of friend I wanted to be in the friendship that I ended recently. And that didn't align well with me. But in order to be the friend that I wanted to be, I couldn't be friends with that person. It just wouldn't work. But the beautiful thing is You can have success. You can have quality friendships and a quality network around you. And it may take some time to build that up. But being around shitty people that don't feel good for you and who bring you down, you don't have to tolerate that. Easier said than done. And I totally get it. Like, I don't know, I just kind of think about it. I'm like, it's easier said than done. And I know that this is something that a lot of people will talk to me about, particularly as wealth grows, because there is that sense of feeling different. Or even like if you have come from wealth and other people around you, but you're working, like you're running your business, but then other people around you are, you know, getting their income in other ways, like they've inherited wealth and they don't need to work, so they don't. And they've got that generational wealth and they rely on that and can just kind of do a lot of volunteer work or charity work or go to the club and be that trophy wife, which is a word that some of my clients use. It can be difficult, but there are people out there that you can find, connect with, and find that sense of belonging. And I think part of that comes down to knowing yourself, knowing what you want, knowing what you deserve, knowing your worth, and then finding people who are able to support that. So I hope that this episode has encouraged you to think about the friendships that are around you, think about the quality of friendships, think about whether the people in your life are people that you want in your life, and also whether you're the friend that you want to be to other people as well. On that note, I'm going to end this episode here, and I cannot wait to share another episode of the Rich Woman Rising podcast with you next week. Until then, take care.